This is Pam Perry, Pam Perry's Picks. And today we're going to be talking about a book by Kimberly Gowdy. All right. So you see that right there, The Colorless Womb. No, I'm not having a baby. This is a book that talks about Kimberly's journey. But let me give you a little bit about her before I bring her up. Uh, she was born in Gadsden, Alabama, and raised in Connecticut. Kimberly Gowdy, who is the eldest of 8 siblings, has always yearned for a child. After 7 failed pregnancies and being trapped in an abusive marriage with a spouse who valued his drug addiction more than his wife, she parted ways with her husband to start a new life in Atlanta in hopes of a rainbow. As fate would have it, her rainbow appeared years later in the body of a gentle, kind, and understanding man. They shared the same dreams of having a child. Kimberly knew that she could become pregnant. She could not carry the child to full term. She says, although I didn't want to go through the unconventional way of having a child, the man she loved and eventually married wanted to take the journey, and the love for him allowed her to move forward. She says the couple entertained the possibility of surrogacy, but experienced one disappointment after another. Anybody who's been through that, to exact 7. Okay. Yet, after the 7th attempt, with 2 embryos left, the failure was not an option. Desperate to find the perfect surrogate led them to the biggest surprise of their lives, the ultimate match in an unforeseen package. Gowdy is a licensed insurance professional for the state of Georgia and 35 additional states. She's a founder and charter member of AKA Psi Omega Peachtree chapters in Georgia. They're currently working with United Healthcare. Kimberly has received multi awards and honors in that area, and she holds a bachelor's degree from business administration, majoring in marketing from, I guess, it's Shaney University. She blends both her education and her business experience to develop and educate people on the benefits that are important in their lives. Over the years, one of the major lessons she learned is saying that love and forgiving people, to treat others with kindness and don't judge and always laugh. Her biggest accomplishment is that proud of being in the life is being a great wife to her husband and a super mom to her now 8-year son. So with that, we welcome Kimberly. Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Good, good. Well, I am glad to have you on Pam Perry's Picks. So
Yeah.
I heard an interview of yours, Kimberly, where you said that you always wanted to write a book.
Yes.
And so if this hadn't happened to you, what kind of book would you have written? This
Oh
before
wow.
we even get into the book.
That's like a really good question. Um, I well, what kind of book would I have written about? I'm gonna say it was probably the fact that, like I was the first, in college, like I'm the oldest, but
Mhm.
my parents, they worked really hard, and I've always admired my parents. I still do. And I want to say I'd likely have written about just that experience of, watching them as I grew, um, you know, them putting and instilling so much into their children to the point where, we all came, successes of our own. So yeah.
And I mean, that's a big family. I mean, you've got 8 siblings,
Yes,
right?
I do.
In Gadsden, Alabama. All right.
Well,
And
Connecticut. Well, I was born in Gadsden. Yeah, I was
you were
born there, but um,
raised in Connecticut.
yeah, I was raised in Connecticut. So yeah.
Okay. Wow. Wow. So if you hadn't had all of this happen to you, and it was uh, a lot of different, not only did you could not carry a child to full term, and how long were you married to your first husband before?
11 years.
Wow.
11 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how many times and how far along were you when the baby, died before,
Yeah.
how many times and how long?
A number of them were early. miscarriages, and that's traumatizing, for women. I know a number of people will think that, because you've never, like, felt the baby, or it didn't get to that point, that that it's not as painful. But from the moment that you find out that you're expecting, you're so excited, you're so in love with this child. It doesn't matter, like, now that you're pregnant, it's just exciting, and
All
it's
the dreams come.
love immediately. And so the last two of my losses, I was in my 6th month and
Wow.
my 5th month. And so that there was absolute devastation.
Yeah, that
Absolute
that is traumatizing because a
Yeah.
lot of you could feel the baby. You were at this point
Yes.
probably planning the
Yeah.
showers and making the nursery and all
Mhm.
of that.
All of it. All
So,
of
do you think there's probably a lot of things. So it's a little the book is personal, so I can ask you some personal questions. So, do you
it. Yeah.
think the the not being able to have a baby with your first marriage combined with what you said were some of the abusive situations and the drug problem, if you had had a baby in that situation, you think the marriage would have lasted, or was being not being able to have a child, you think that was a cause of, or just a combination?
Um, I think that knowing my personality, knowing myself, I think that had we had a child, I likely would have wanted to just make it work. Like, whatever was going
Mhm.
to happen, I had to make it work. So I think that would have been my position.
Yeah, yeah.
If a child was involved.
You
Yeah.
would have tried to work it out. So now looking back, you left and went to ATL and was just on your journey to just enjoying life. You're
Yeah.
single,
Exactly.
free, and could do all the things. And so, had you really thought about? Can I ask, like, around what age that was when you got to Atlanta and decided it's like, hey, I'm
Oh,
good.
yeah. I was in my late 30s. I was like 37, 38 at that point. Yeah, about 37.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, about 37 or 38. Not that that's old to have a child, but most times I had my
Yeah.
daughter at 36.
Mhm.
At 35, they warn you
Yes.
so many times that having a baby over 35, you got to have the amniocentesis. What if something's wrong with, they put all this worry in you. It's like, oh my God, it's
Exactly.
like,
Exactly.
do our body just explode at 35? I can't have a child. So at this point, you are in Atlanta and you're single and you meet this guy, and you didn't know that, well, you'd always wanted to have a child, but you thought at that point that it wasn't possible, or how did that conversation come about really trying to have a child?
Yeah, I didn't think that it was. Well, you know what? I won't say that I didn't think it was possible. I mean, there are other women have had, children like way older than 37.
Yeah.
But
Janet
I
Jackson had one at 50. Oh, just
exactly. I thought for me, it was just I had already gone through all of the losses, so it's not like I have like a physical inability to continue to full term. So at that point, I'm not thinking about like a child at that point. Although yes, I would have loved to have been a mom. At that point in my life, it was not something that I thought about at all. In fact, I just figured if I did meet someone amazing, we would just, he would likely have children and just be, doing living his life, and there you go. We would just travel, and it would just be that type of situation.
Did you ever think about adoption as an option or no?
Yes, I mean, I thought about adoption honestly even when I was in the first marriage. I thought about, like, okay, maybe I should just adopt. So I did think about that. And even now, I'll be honest, like, I have a child and he's awesome. But I do also think about just it would be nice, one, if he had a sibling, but other than that, I mean, but aside from that, rather, there are so many children that are in the system and that they would need, need and love. to
Mhm.
have a home. And then I think about, the just being a good person, or just desiring to necessarily not necessarily have the child, but to raise and instill
Mhm.
goodness in a child. So that would be something that so that is why I guess I'll say I still think about adoption. In fact, it's so funny that you said that, because my son said to me this morning, he's like, "Mommy, when is my sister coming?"
Oh
Because
my
we've been
goodness. Yeah.
talking
Right, right. They're at that age when they're
yeah,
under 10,
like
it's
when is,
kinda like
yeah,
"Hey, I want somebody here to play with me." Now when they get to about
yeah,
14
yeah.
or 15, it's kinda like,
And
"Okay."
it's like, yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah,
came from, like, a big family, so I could see how that would just be,
yeah,
like, a normal for you because you wanna do that. So you didn't go the adoption route, and so your son actually was, born by you and your husband using a surrogate. And so
yeah.
explain to people who aren't really familiar with the process and kinda give us a little bit about how long that process is, because it's not like, "Oh, I've got, this and I'm just going to pick a person and then it's going to happen right away." So I know there's a lot more to it. And tell us about some of the investigative work and the
And
money
yeah,
people have to pay.
exactly. I mean, it's just oh, there's just so much. Like, where do you start on it? Um, I, for us, like once you're told, like, hey, you can't carry the child, and if you decide that you're going to go down the surrogacy route, there's like the psychological, there's the medical part of it, there is the background check, there's everything about the process between for you and that person that you choose. So first of all, finding the person, if you don't go through an agency, you can choose to do what I did, which took so much time, and that was going through the internet.
Hmm.
And so there's like a world of surrogacy all
Mm.
over the internet. You call, it's like you can select the person that you think, she has a write up. It's almost like online dating.
Wow.
And I
Had
always like,
no
yeah,
idea.
yeah.
Had no idea. You can find anything on Google, but go
You
on.
can, you can. So it's like online dating. So it's like, hi, I'm this, where do you live? Whatever, what are your interests? And so you can do that. And so I did that. And I ended up doing it 3 times, like unsuccessfully. So like I'd meet the person, and like I said, you have to go through the background, the psychological and the medical part. And so the first one, there was a problem. A second one, another problem, and then the third one, it was another problem. And so,
Were you trying to find someone of color? Is that why the colorless womb, is that what the main issue was? You're trying to find someone that would carry,
abs-
your
yeah, okay. So I had already come to the knowledge that I would not be able to carry my child. And so I think just instinctively, culturally, you just say, okay, if I am going to go this route, I would kind of want the person to look like me, like not that it's that she has any, biological connection to my child, but maybe I can see myself vicariously, like through this person. And like, so the experience would just be a little closer to
between.
me.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that was pretty much what my thought was about it. So yes, when I was looking for surrogates, like I would see like different people and read about her, and she may mention that African American female, that she's whatever. And so that's what I wanted to do, and that's how I did it. And it didn't work out the way that I planned
Mhm.
at all. And for those various reasons, like the issues where they couldn't go through the full test. I
Mhm.
guess I'd say
The
like,
legal, mental, physical, all of that.
yes, and then mainly it was like physical issues that held that held things back.
Mm.
And so that was really what our experience was, and
How
we
many
couldn't
years
do it.
how many years of doing that did that take, or months?
Yeah, it seemed like you would just go, oh, okay, let me call 1-800 surrogate, there you go, like we're a match and we're good. No, you have to find the person through, like, like your research. You're trying to find the right person. Is this person in your state? How many times have they done this? Everything about them, because you don't really know what you don't know. But as I was reading through the internet and seeing what other people were asking, because there are also groups for people who are looking for surrogates, and they give advice and references and bounce things off each other, and that's their own support group. And so I was, becoming more and more knowledgeable about it, and you can start to weed out different scenarios, right away. And so that takes time getting to that person, and not, I just said this a second ago, but like likening it to online dating. It's not, like you,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's like why aren't you married like in 2 weeks after you meet the guy? No, like you are going through the process. You find that first one, and maybe it seems like it's working out for a while, doesn't. And so it's not like you just immediately are ready emotionally to just go on to the next situation. Because again,
Some
like I
people
said,
really,
it's
yeah,
more physical, that
right.
their issues were more physical. So we had already gone through the background check, gone through the psychological. So we were becoming friends. And
So,
then
Kimberly, do you think that the period of time, so you're in Atlanta, you're about 38-ish or so,
Mhm,
about the time when you decide to do the surrogacy,
mhm,
and you find that the first three or so people that maybe of color that you thought would work out didn't. So
right.
now, how long did that part take in terms of finding that and then going through the agency? And then I'm looking at a time frame, how
It
long that was.
Yeah, I want to say it took us about 3 years, three
Wow.
years or so, if not more, to go through it. And I
So
was
during that time, you're
looking
pretty
for.
stressed. Is that why you wrote the book, you think?
Well, I mean, I was pretty stressed about the whole thing. It's just like you're on an emotional roller coaster going through the whole process. It's very new, and you
Wow.
know, yeah. So it was
And
hard.
it's not like you know anybody in your family that has ever done this, and I
No,
don't
I
know.
don't know anybody who's ever done it other than celebrities.
Right, right, and so that part is a lot of celebrities do that because they can really it's an expensive process
It is.
about the range of what you go through because you did the,
IVF, yeah,
yeah,
the
did that.
IVF, like, yeah, in order to for the yeah, we did IVF first.
Oh my God. So
Yeah,
when you're looking at, your son now is 8, he's healthy, he's happy, your life feels really complete. The thousands of dollars, if people can guess, like it's like, okay, Kimberly's going to tell me in the colorless room a little bit about her journey, but tell us about the financial part that probably people would have to expect to maybe spend, or and the amount of time that they're living with this for 3 years or more of trying to
yeah,
find the person. That's a lot. It's like consumes your life.
yeah, it's a lot. It is a lot. Yes, it does consume your life. Yes, it is very expensive. I mean, not being so specific, but I would
5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000.
more than more than $30,000. Like
Wow, that's
going through the process, and then on top of that, having the surrogate, having to go through that part, like it can be like we're talking upwards of maybe like $100,000
and that's why there's
over
probably a lot of
time. Though, over
people.
time,
Right, and that's why a lot of people don't know a lot of people that are doing that, especially
right,
people of color, right? People of
right.
color is kinda like, well, I don't know if I have 100,000 laying around for doing that type of
Mhm.
thing." And a lot of times people will just go childless, because of that. So does your book talk about other, people or other lessons that you've learned, during this process, or what is the main takeaway that you really want people to get from the colorless womb?
The main takeaway from the colorless womb is that um, I wanted to step outside. I guess it's unconventional, rather, that I'm even going this route. I don't know anybody other than celebrities whom I don't know.
Right.
Um, and no one's done it in my circle of influence. So it's something that I had to get comfortable with, but also doing the unconventional, but even the person who carried my son, it was unconventional. And um, that's really why I wanted to do the book. And it was really mainly because of,
When you said it was unconventional for the person that carried your son, was it the first time she had ever?
no, because it wasn't the first time that she'd ever done this, but it was unconventional that in that I was looking for a black woman, and so the first three it didn't work out, and then ultimately when I did decide I no longer wanted to move forward, and sometimes that's the case, like when you stop and it's not you deciding when it's going to be done, who's going to do it, and you just let, I mean, cliche, I don't know if it's cliche, but
Surrender.
you just let go and
Mhm.
let God. When you get to that point, that's when it's like he just comes in, and it's a completely, it just works. And I met the person, and she was not anything that I had, well, she wasn't a black woman, she was white, and she was amazing, and she gave me one of the greatest gifts, that I could have asked, on this earth, I guess. So yeah, because my son, he's just, everything to me. So again, yeah, that's what I would tell people. Like, you might be looking for at something this way, and it could come unexpectedly. And that's what happened with me. And one last thing, because of so much racial tension and so many issues going on in our country, that is another reason why I really wanted to write the book. I would have likely written about my surrogacy, and that the woman's black, I'm black, and just gone through the story of it. But
Mhm.
the beauty that it's like the icing is that Heidi and I, black, white, we did something that was so amazing. And in a time when people were just so divisive and so angry about everything, I just, the greatest, the person who would bless you the most, it may not look anything like you. So that's
Mhm.
what I always
Mhm.
tell people.
Are you all still friends? Do you all still communicate? Do you want to maybe have her one day, involved in your son's and in your husband's life, or is she like a godmom? I mean, these are probably the questions that people would
Yeah,
ask over Thanksgiving dinner. Like, so
yeah,
how's that going to work out now? It's like, does he have
exactly.
two moms? I mean, so it's your child, but she was
Right.
the carrier.
She carried him. But yeah, I my son knows everything. Like with the book out, I
Yeah,
mean, he's so
he
smart.
reads.
And
Yeah.
he's like, I was reading your book, or I saw your picture on Google. So
Oh my gosh.
he's read, we've talked, and so he knows about everything. And what he says is, he wants to thank her for like helping my mom, because
Oh,
my tummy wasn't working. And so he's like, your tummy wasn't working, that's okay, and it's okay if somebody has to help you. So
oh,
that's
wow.
my son.
That
So
is
that's it.
cool.
Yeah, I know it's great the way he is. And so I I do still communicate with Heidi, and we've done like an interview, like or two together. She's awesome, and I still send her pictures. But like with Facebook, social media, she sees everything out there, and or I'll send her like something in, a direct message. So it's still good, and she's so awesome. Her husband's David, my husband's David, and so
Oh,
it's just
that's kind of
he's
cool.
still awesome. Yeah.
There was a forward in here. Tammy Delay,
Tell
Delete,
Jimmy Deal.
Tammy
Yeah.
Deal.
Yeah.
So why did in particular did you have her do the forward for the book?
Well, Tammy was somebody who not going into her story, but she's um she in Atlanta, and practically everywhere, like people who know of her. She's doing great things, like in the movie industry and every industry. And so she also doesn't have children, and so we were both around that same age. And I had my son, and I know that she thought about children, or at least some conversations that we've had. And so I just thought that she would be the great, a great person to write something about it. Her seeing, like watching me through my journey, and so yeah, so I thought it would be good.
So she doesn't have children, or she was thinking about doing
She,
surrogacy, or
she still doesn't have children, but well, she probably has a lot of children because everybody probably wants her to be their aunts, like, helping them with their child because she's that amazing.
Ah, that is good. That is good. It says Kim Gowdy removes the mask from the struggle of not physically being able to care to give birth, but to reveal the joy of finally having a child to call her own. And then it says, if you've lived any time on this planet, you know in life situations can be hard to bear and you feel like giving up, caving in, and quitting. And then she says, the colorless womb is an inspirational journey on how to stay the course, never give up on your heart's desire, and learn that second chances are possible if you believe. So your faith has a lot to do with this as well. So that's part of it as well, that I want people to understand that they will get inspired, that your faith is something, definitely your Christian faith
Absolutely.
keeps you through that. And then I just really like the fact that you, every part of this, you kind of document in case people are really wondering because they don't know, especially people of color that have done the
Yes.
surrogacy. So
Yes.
this is really good for people to understand that it is the colorless womb. And people don't understand, at least I didn't understand that the when you said biologically there's nothing about the person who carries your child that's going to
Right.
be a part of your child. And
Right.
so that's probably what a lot of people are like, really, that doesn't it's like, no, it
Yeah.
doesn't. It's like it's scientifically impossible. And your
Right.
husband is a medical doctor.
Yeah, he is. He is. In fact, that's how I will say I had never even thought about surrogacy. So when they were talking about it, I didn't even really know like what okay, how does that really work? So it was
from a
my husband.
from a science standpoint,
Yeah.
like
And so he was just like, and so, because I knew he would be looking at it like medically. So then when I'm like, so like, does the baby, he's like, I mean, so like finally, of course, he's like, oh my God. Like, who did I marry? I'm like, oh my God, like I'm supposed to know more. But I didn't know anything about it.
no.
And yeah, he's like, no, like your DNA is your DNA. It's like it's not gonna fall onto somebody else's DNA. Like that's not how
That's
science is.
that's a
Yeah.
normal question because
So yeah,
nobody knows. I mean, I don't know anyone who's ever done it, like you said, other than
exactly.
celebrities. So that's that. I thank you for writing the book because it's one of the things where it's very vulnerable. You're talking about your first marriage and all the things that you've gone through there, and not giving up. So it's really a book about resiliency.
Mhm,
Being
mhm.
resilient and not necessarily about having children, but just about being resilient is really the main lesson I think that people need to learn from this. And what
Absolutely.
you said about how someone who doesn't even look like you can just really bless you,
Yeah.
and they are different from a different race, but they have the same heart. And so that's really the
Exactly.
main thing. That is so, so good. So Kimberly, Gowdy.com. And are there other places that people can follow you? And
Oh,
obviously they can get
sure.
the book on Amazon because we're streaming on Amazon Live. So click the link that's right below. But where else can they also find you as well? And what platforms and names?
Oh, sure. Like on Facebook, it's the Colorless Womb. Well, go figure. And then on Instagram, it's Colorless Womb underscore on
Okay.
Instagram and Colorless Womb underscore on Twitter. Twitter's not really, it's there, but yeah,
Well, well,
Instagram is really where I like to, follow me on
so
Instagram.
it's just colorless womb.
Colorless Womb underscore. Mhm.
Okay, very good, very good. And I love the cover too. That's very, very
Yeah, I thought that was yeah. It's something that I kind of came up with. I will say, like I was working with a publisher, and they had ideas. And when I said, "Hey, I would really like it to be like," I kind of drew it out, which
hmm
my drawing is like stick figures, but they got it, and then
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
it's
So is this your this is your first book, your debut book. So are you planning
yeah.
your next one, or maybe you and your son are planning a book?
Yeah, I really should plan a book with my son. He is just, oh my gosh, he's something else. But I thought about writing. Well, I am like a few pages in. Like it's kind of like it's a little different. I'll say than the Colorless Womb because the Colorless Womb was like everything I went through. So everything you've gone through. So you're writing, and it's so easy. But I want to incorporate kind of like in the next book more about it's either going to be a not necessarily political, but maybe sort of kind of, or it may be about like step parenting and the
Okay.
importance of like because I'm a stepmom to my husband's children, and so I just the dynamics of that relationship,
Mhm.
the more that you have blended families, and so that's something that's also on my heart. Like now that I have, well, bonus children, they're not my
Yeah,
stepchildren, but
yeah,
bonus
they
children.
call it bonus children.
Yeah, my
I love
bonus
that.
children.
I would love to hear from the perspective of what your son just says. My mommy's tummy wasn't working, so she
Yeah,
had to have help. But that kind of was like it sounds like a great children's book that maybe you can help him pen. And
yeah,
it just sounds like something that is different enough where hearing how wise he is at such a young age, but
yeah.
also explaining to maybe other children who are also born the same kind of way, you
You
know?
are giving me a great idea. Oh, that's
Because
really
I'm sure there's
good.
other children out there like your son as
Yeah,
well, but they don't have a book that can really talk about it and feel the same ways that they feel. So that's why I was saying that that might be really cool to do as well. And it's a children's picture book. I mean, it can be
yeah,
for elementary
exactly.
school. Yeah, yeah. So that will be good. So
And
I
then
just
you could
love
do
it.
the forward on that book. You'll be doing the forward on that.
Well, I'm thinking probably someone that is an older
Yeah,
surrogate
yeah,
child, you know what I'm saying?
exactly.
But we don't know, so you have to kind of do a call for that kind of thing, or like I
Yeah,
said, you were saying earlier how you can find anything on the internet, so it
that's
might be a
right.
whole little community of that
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
never know, but that is something that I'm so glad that you didn't give up, that you and your husband did go forward and have your son, and that just sounds like a really, really blessed thing to do. So, thank you so much for coming on, Pam
Thank
Perry.
you.
And this has been really, really good. So, KimberlyGowdy.com. Make sure you get the book from Amazon. It is available. And so, thank you so much for joining us today.
And it's colorlessroom.com.
Yes, yes.
Colorlessroom.com.
And it's Kimberly, they can get everything at Kimberly Gowdy as well.
Yes, yes.
Okay. If they want you to speak or
Uh-huh.
do book signings or even book clubs and that sort of
Mhm.
thing. So that would be good as well. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we will talk with you soon. All right. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
So that was Kimberly, KimberlyGowdy.com. Make sure that you get the book from Amazon, Pam Perry's Picks. It is really a very different book. I'm sure that anyone has probably read the story and the journey of Kimberly that she did just recently with her son being 8 years old. So with that, I am Pam Perry and I am out. God bless.